going on there, guys? We back with another one, and we got to talk about CP3 speaking on the Warriors today. Now, there's been speculation that he feels some sort of way about Draymond, or Draymond feels some sort of way about him, but not so. A lot of times when you have competitors in the heat of battle and they see someone as a threat, they genuinely don't like each other just because what they're going for. It isn't a personal thing. It isn't something that goes off the court to the point where they want to do something to them or that they could never play with them. Very rarely do you have those situations like that. But you saw Draymond speak highly of Chris Paul, saying he's going to unlock Kuminga. And then you also had CP3 tonight saying that Draymond reminds him of Kevin Garnett. Let's check it out.
There's always a respect there, too, when you compete like that against guys. You know what I mean? And obviously fans always want the insight. Do y'all talk? Did this happen? Clay, for all those years, I would be running around chasing Steph, and Clay would be guarding me. So there's a respect there. Me and Clay talk when we play, and I think Draymond is sort of like, I always say when people ask me who's the one player that I didn't get to play with that I wish I would have, and I always say Kevin Garnett. And it's because the first 3 times I ever played against KG, we both got double takes. We was about to fight every time. But it was because he was like-minded like me. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way with Draymond. I know he competes just like I do, so it's going to be, definitely dope to see us now as teammates.
Obviously, you'd be coming off the bench, playing with the second unit that's a lot younger than the Warriors of the past have been with JK and Moses. Just what do you think of their depth, their bench players that you might be playing alongside?
You coaching?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what the situation is going to be yet. You know what I mean? So I think that'll be for us to figure out once we get going.
You've never come off the bench in your entire career. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Like I said, it'll be a conversation for us when camp starts or whatnot. But me and Steve have talked or whatnot. But that ain't something that you'd be like, what up, man? Where you starting? You coming off? You know what I mean? So I think we'll figure all that stuff out in camp.
Chris, you never been afraid to throw that lob pass throughout your career. What do you think about the
Not to sound crazy or whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's basketball. It's not brain surgery. And I'm going into a situation with a bunch of guys who done played together for a long time that know how to play. And you all right over there?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. But
State Farm.
Yeah, right. It's expensive insurance. Right? It's I don't know. I guess it's me or whatnot, but I'm not as worried about it as probably everybody else is, or anybody. When I say everybody, not necessarily our team, but we gonna figure it out.
Is there a style of play in your career that you can remember is at least somewhat similar to the way they play, with kind of all the flowing movement and all that?
I don't know. I've never played with, all these different types of players. You know what I mean? So that's the situation. That's what happens. I don't think there's any team in the league that's the same. When I got to Phoenix, I'd never played with a player like Devin Booker, right? J.J. Redick was a lot different, in the way he shot coming off screen. Steph has the ability to create his own shot. Clay dropped, I forgot how many points with a few dribbles, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Draymond, the way that he can create shots for other players. So, like I said, luckily it's basketball, and I know a little bit about the game.
Following up.
This is what I like, and it's not like in his prime. CP3 needs a reduced role at this point. Now, coming off the bench, he says that's a conversation going into training camp, and it looks like he'll be open to whatever role that is at this point. I think CP3 playing 20, 25 minutes a night is good just for the injuries he's been throughout his career, being able to have other guys carry the load, and for him, he could be CP3 at the highest level for that amount of time. Seeing him and Steph, right now at Summer League, they've always been close, but building that camaraderie, man, I think is huge. And I think Draymond, now he's going to have another talker, another leader that gets, how Draymond got in KD's face, he gets in Steph and Clay's face sometimes. Well, they have 2 of those now. And so I think, Chris may even be the more dominant leader personality. And I think that's healthy for the locker room. I think if Jordan Poole, that incident with Jordan Poole, if Chris Paul was on the roster, I think it would have gotten diffused in a way where CP, not saying he would have went and tried to get on Draymond, but I think the way the team just let it happen, I think Chris Paul would have stepped in and put himself, in the line of fire to break it up. That's just how feisty of a leader he is. And I think, Steph has always looked up to Chris Paul, just coming from North Carolina and who Chris Paul was as a player, before he became an established household name. But back to the point, like him comparing him to KG as a defender, obviously, Draymond's not the player that Kevin Garnett is by no stretch of the imagination, but just the way he competes and his competitive edge, I think CP3 really, really, really respects that on a big high level, and seeing those two together, it's going to be special. The communication on defense. Chris Paul, he was a guy who was amongst the steal leaders for years, and to have those two on defense, I say that to say Chris Paul is going to be a good communicator and calling things out, recognizing sets, recognizing schemes that they're in, and for him to come into that locker room, I think is going to be special. Like these guys, they compete, and that it's a competitive jealousy thing, right? Where they seem like they don't like each other, and that's how it should be on the floor. But you see a lot of times these players, when they join forces, Metta World Peace and Kobe, remember how they were when he was in Houston, in Kobe LA years, and they used to go at it hard. But when you got them on the same team, it became a championship team. And Metta, he was able to take those defensive responsibilities. You never have to question his effort. That viral clip where, Kobe's going off on some of the younger guys because they don't want it as bad as him. But, a lot of those guys weren't that talented. But you take like a Metta World Peace to battle with you, someone who was your nemesis, like the way they were competing against you is the way they're going to compete with you, maybe even harder, because they recognize their focus and their mental fortitude and what they want to accomplish. You put those two together on the same page, it's nasty. You get a nasty result, and you could win different types of games. And I think that's how Draymond and Chris see this thing. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace.